Well, well, well.
Well.
Are things ever moving and shaking in the sports world north of the border? My goodness, what a whirlwind week in Leafland. As if it couldn't get any crazier. There's a lot to cover here, Clarkey. My goodness. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. And to talk about some of the crazy stuff that's gone on with the Leafs.
I did this for you, by the way. Former Washington Capital.
Yes, we have a great guest on, former Washington Capital, fifth round pick of the Capitals. How about that? Calder Cup champion with the Hershey Bears and a Leafs alumnus as well.
Hershey Bear Hall of Famer.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Deservedly so. I'm glad you mentioned that,
buddy.
Clarkey. Yes, we are very pleased to welcome on our friend Lou Franceschetti onto the program. Lou, it's a pleasure to have you, my friend. How are you?
Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's great to be on. I know all those accolades. I didn't know I did that much, but I must have done something good and right.
It looks like you just broke out of jail. What are you wearing?
Just my my top. I know if I take my glasses off, I can probably be on the 10 most wanted list. So I wear glasses to read, so I need them.
No problem. Louis, how was your day yesterday?
How was what?
How was your day yesterday?
Well, getting on a plane, flying back from Southern California, which the flight was delayed 3 hours, and then having to wait for my luggage last night for a couple of hours. So I got home about 11:30, which made it about to be, I don't know, an easy 12 to 14 hour day.
And then you heard about the press conference, and what about your soccer team? What happened there?
They were probably as bad as the press conference in Toronto was like yesterday. I didn't get to watch the so-called Azuti. If I don't even know if I given him that much credit. I heard about it from a friend of mine, and they didn't do too well. And I watched some of the highlights today. And listen, it's one team that the history of soccer. I can't believe that. What's going on there the last, I'd say, 10 to 14 years?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. Italy missing the World Cup. And Lou, I just want you to know for the record, I didn't want to talk about this with you. Clarkey wanted to bring up Italy missing the World Cup. So I didn't want to broach that sensitive subject. But you're right, man. It's unbelievable watching a world powerhouse like that, four-time World Cup champion, numerous European accolades. It's unbelievable watching a program like that. I think that, Gazzetta dello Sport, which is probably the biggest sports publication over there, said that it feels like the national team have lost their soul. I don't know what your opinion is of that, Lou, but I mean, it certainly looked like that, bowing out to Bosnia-Herzegovina. I just don't know what to make of this.
I really don't know either. And I saw this morning that they're still ranked 13 in the world. I'm not sure if that's 13 from the bottom. It surely isn't 13 from the top. You know what? It's one country right now that until they get the soccer federation straightened out on who's running it and start from the top all the way down. Because we know that from being in this city, that you definitely need a good foundation and people at the top to make this thing a winning situation.
Yeah, I agree. And Clarkey, I'll share some thoughts with you later in the show about what I think about this whole Italian soccer debacle. Because
no problem. Really, well, let's move on to hockey. It's just too. Let me just say, it is too bad because it would have been Canada and Italy. At BMO Field in the first, it would have been the first game. Anyway, they would have played, and it would have been an unbelievable atmosphere.
It definitely would have been. I was looking forward to it, but now it just saves me a few bucks and a few hours traveling down there and getting caught in that mess because not only down there, down at BMO Field, if you want to call it, but I think all around the whole city between the Canadians and the Italians that. It'll be a nice festival event, but you know what? Let's move on and let's talk about something else.
Yep.
Well, and we're going to talk about something that's no less painful, of course, and that is obviously the happenings in Leafland with Brad Treliving getting relieved of his duties in his third season as general manager just before Monday night's contest against the Anaheim Ducks. And Lou, before we talk about kind of the press conference that occurred with Keith Pelley yesterday, again, we're recording this on Wednesday, April 1st. Before we dig into that, just your thoughts on the tenure of Brad Treliving as general manager for the Leafs. And in your opinion, maybe what went wrong? Why did they not have success with him at the helm?
Well, I you know what? I feel for Brad, because when you put all your eggs in one basket and you don't succeed, failure is just around the corner. And I think that's what he did last year. He went all in on Scotty Lawton, and he went all in with Brandon Carlo. And it cost him possibly 4 prospects. Minton, the Russian player that went to Philly, you're talking maybe a top 5 pick this year, and 2 first-round picks altogether. So I think this pretty much started once Dubas got fired, because he wasn't given enough time to make the proper adjustment to dealing with the Marner case. When you're given 2 weeks to deal a player of that nature, and not forcing his hand in the no trade clause that come July 1st, I think that put a lot of pressure. But we all know this isn't about the Toronto Maple Leafs making the playoffs. This is about winning the Stanley Cup here, and that's what we're all about. We've been making the playoffs for the last 9 years since Austin Matthews got here, and it's just one of those things that we're not happy with just making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. We're happy with we want to win a Stanley Cup because it's been 50 some odd years before it was the last time we won it, and we've been so close, and we've had opportunities to do that, or even to get out of the first and second round, but we've fallen flat on our face.
Why do you think that is the case? Why have they fallen flat? Why couldn't they make that next step?
I really don't think that we had the proper players in place. Obviously, we had the core 4 for all those years, but we didn't have the players in the middle or the back end to really be successful. And I'm talking about just when our goaltending starts to play well, we had injuries. We've had a couple of unfortunate situations where Nazem Kadri more or less lost his head for a couple of seconds, and Boston has come back from 3-1. We're talking about losing the Montreal series, being up 3-1 to the Canadiens, and then the COVID year, where we're probably one of the weakest leagues. We let Columbus come back and they beat us in 5. So you know what? It's a bag of a lot of little things that we just couldn't get over.
You know, Keith Pelley yesterday in the press conference talked a lot about culture. You're a Maple Leaf alumni. Have you seen a noticeable change since Shanahan left and they basically haven't had a president? You're around the team. What do you see?
I'm not around the team a lot. I don't think the players know who the hell I am. I'm up in the alumni. I'm up in the alumni box a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, the scuttlebutt up there is almost like the same thing. You go watch a game, and there's no compete level. You're sure that the 4 guys usually do most of the caring, but again, when the 4 guys don't do anything like they haven't in the playoffs, we haven't got guys that'll pick them up. The goaltending hasn't been great during the playoffs. It's been good, but we need great goaltending. You look at the teams that beat us. Vasilevsky beat us a couple of years. Bobrovsky beat us a couple of years. So you need that big horse or that big brick wall in the playoffs, and we just haven't had it.
Lou, I'm curious, you know, with the press conference yesterday Keith Pelley had, I mean, I think the consensus is that it was, you know, I think the kindest thing I heard about it was that it was coherent. I think the worst I've heard about it on the other end of the spectrum, and that most people think, is that it was a disastrous press conference. And I tend to agree, because I don't think I learned anything. I don't know about you, about what the future direction of this team looks like. What did you take away, if anything, from what Keith said to everybody yesterday?
Well, I think I said it earlier in the show. The press conference was as bad as the Italian soccer team's game against Bosnia. You know what? It's just one of those things that, what do the fans really have to look forward to for next year? We're probably not going to get the top 5 pick. We're going to lose our first round pick probably in 27. The Leafs have probably one of the worst prospect teams in the league. We don't have any young guys coming up. And you're going to go into the season with the same players you had this year. There's questions to be asked there. And word gets around. Like, I'm not sure if anybody wants to come and play in Toronto. They think it's a city or a team that always gets criticized at different moments. And if they can't come in with the right frame of mind, there's no sense even having them here. You only have really 3 players to build around. That's Matthews, Nylander, and Matthew Nyes. You really have to selling off your assets, not your assets, but some of the players that you have right now, and try to either get some draft picks or get some players that will compete at the level. And the word is compete. Okay, we don't have a team that competes here on a regular basis, and it has showed up lots of times this year. You look what happened with the Matthews case in Anaheim. Or sorry, not in Anaheim, but in Toronto a few weeks ago. It happened earlier in the year when Zadorov ran at Matthews too, and nobody did anything till after the fact instead of doing it right at that moment. So, and I also feel for Chief, because I know the way Chief, and I'm talking about Craig Berube, I know the way he was as a battler, as a hockey player. He'd go down tooth and nail with it till his last breath. And I think he's having a harder time adjusting to this situation here than anybody.
There's a lot to unpack there in what you just said, but I want to start with, you don't know if players want to come to Toronto. Now, you're a Toronto kid when you came to Toronto and played. What did you feel when you came to Toronto? Did you feel the heat from the media, from the fans? And was your time here a pleasant experience, a good experience?
It's funny you bring that up, because I would have done anything to come back to Toronto at any time during my career. Actually, I had a chance to even leave Toronto even before right after I got traded. Matter of fact, 3 days after I got traded. You know what? I just looked at the way you come to work with a lunch pail. I was raised by Italian parents that came over on a boat with a suitcase and probably $100 in their pockets, if even that. And my mom and my dad worked their tails off to put me in a position where to succeed. And it wasn't necessarily to succeed as a hockey player, but more or less raised to succeed as, you know what, you go to work, you put your time in, and you work hard. And that's the way I came to this city. It was just, the fans feed off of that. They know when the effort's in, and they know when the effort's not in. And I try to give 110% every single night that I was here in Toronto. And it seemed to rub off on the fans. And, that's all I can say, because I'm still pretty well recognized in the city now. Yeah. And this is 40 years after I played here.
Yeah. You used to get the Lou chants. I mean,
no, they're boos.
No, they were not. They were not. They were loose. They were definitely loose. But, scored some goals, over 100 penalty minutes when you came here. Like, you were definitely a fan favorite. And, like yourself, like the Darcy Tuckers, the Wendells, like those are the kind of guys that Leaf fans love. And I don't see any right now.
I really don't either. And you know what? If they could throw a lasso and bring myself or Darcy or even Wendell or Shane Corson onto the ice.
Yes.
We always say that our alumni box is probably a lot tougher than the boys on the ice.
Oh, boy.
And I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. There's some tough boys, and we're talking Nick Kiprios, we're talking Kevin McGuire, we're talking guys of that nature that, when we put on that jersey, we're in it for the end. And there's some of these guys right now, and it could be because they're getting paid so much money. I really don't know. I know I got what I got paid, and it was peanuts. I think some of these guys are making more in a month than I made in a whole, probably a year or even career. And that's what really bothers me, and bothers a lot of the other players up there, that these guys aren't putting the effort in. And I'm not sure the last time you guys went to a hockey game there, but it's tough to figure out that you're at a hockey game because the fans are just not into it unless the players do something. And it's really sad, because I think the players need to feed off of the fans without being the other way around.
I was at one game this year, and that was the Chicago game in December, the Joe Bowen night, and it was such a great ceremony at the beginning of the game. The fans were into it, and then for 2 periods, the Leafs got like 15 shots, and it was awful.
It really was, and you know what? It could be the corporate end of it, but if you look at other cities in Canada, even in the U.S., if you don't put a product on the ice, they don't show up. And unfortunately for the Leafs, they still have a stable of probably 13,000 solid seasons ticket holders, and look at all the money that they're making from their concessions and apparel. So something has to happen. I'm not sure what it is right now, but let's stay patient and see what happens within the next. I would say probably 2 months to see who they hire, and then whether Craig Berube comes back or not.
Well, Lou, you made a good point, and that was, you have to, and especially in certain U.S. markets, put a good product on the ice or people aren't going to come. You were part of a franchise for a very long time. You were drafted by them, as a matter of fact, the Washington Capitals, who I grew up as a fan of as a kid, and you would have been in the organization around the time when the Save the Caps campaign happened. And then they made that big trade, Rick Green and Rod Langway coming to town, obviously. That was a huge move that stabilized the franchise, really. And then they drafted well, got a bunch of good players through there, Dale Hunter and Scott Stevens, like all those great players that came through and kept them competitive. You had an experience in a market that was not a traditional hockey market, and they've managed to become a premier franchise in the NHL, and the Leafs are playing catch up with teams like that. Like, how does that happen with all the resources that Toronto has available to them?
Well, it comes down to when I was in Washington, it's not that they didn't make bad draft choices. They made some really good draft choices. You draft Rick Green, you draft Ryan Walter, you draft Mike Gardner, you draft Scotty Stevens, you draft Bobby Carpenter. Okay, but the thing that more or less put that franchise on the map was when David Poile came in, and I'm thinking this is probably 1981 in the summer there, and he made the big trade. He said, listen, we can't keep going ahead with what we have here. We got to trade our 2 cornerstones, and that was Rick Green and Ryan Walter. And in return to Montreal, they got Rod Langway, they got Brian Engblom, they got Craig Laughlin, they got Dougie Jarvis. And for them, David knew that you win with defense, and Rod was the epitome of defense there. Drafting Scotty Stevens really, really helped them too, because they gave them a top 1-2. Then they ended up drafting Kevin Hatcher in the mid-'80s, which gave them another horse. He made some great deals. He didn't care who you were or what you were to the city. You were being traded if the right price came in. They ended up making a trade to Calgary to get a couple of quality players. They ended up then trading Brian Engblom to LA to bring in Larry Murphy. Then we got another trade with you brought in Patty Riggin. So these were all players that were in the league that were affordable to come in at that time to turn the franchise around. And David didn't care who you were. Even if you were the most popular guy, you were being traded for somebody else that was going to make this team better, because he knew what it took to be successful in this league.
Yeah.
So is the only way out for this Leaf team to trade Matthews?
Well, you can't really make a trade now because he's got a no movement clause.
But you can say, listen, we're not going to be good for the next few years. Will you entertain? Where do you want to go? There's ways to do it.
Let's see. I'll start from the goalie out. Okay, you got to move Stolars. Okay, that's the number one guy. They got enough backups in the minor leagues that'll give you at least 20 games. Stolarz always seems to be injured at the wrong time. Okay, you got to move Brandon Carlo. Get whatever you can for him. You got to move Morgan Riley. The last couple of years have just not been Morgan Riley type years, and maybe give him a little bit of a refresh start. You got to move Nylander to see if you can either find somebody else to coach him properly, because if you can't, here's a guy that's going to score 40 goals every single year for you, but he's only playing 60 because the other 20 he doesn't bother showing up. So, and then you got to, Max Domi's making $3.5 million, but he shouldn't be making that because he's a third or fourth line player anymore. So you really got to find the pieces around that will help this hockey team. Dakota Joshua came here, and I thought that was a good pickup because I saw him play a few years ago in Vancouver, and he's not even close to that player that he was back then. You make a deal for Marner, you get Nick Roy, and whatever else you get there. You bring in Maselli, and he didn't do anything. So all the moves that they've made have not worked out. Mind you, if they would have worked out, it would have been a great situation, and Brad would have been on top of Mount Rushmore. But they didn't, and right now they've more or less taken 10 steps forward and moved about 30 or 40 back. And they're going to be looking on the way up because a lot of the other teams right now have a lot better younger players that are coming up. You look at Detroit, you look at what Buffalo's doing, you look at Montreal. All those teams, they're all younger, but they've all got young kids that are coming up through the ranks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, and I've said before, and I'll say it again, the number one thing, in my opinion, that is holding the Leafs back from success, it's held them back and continues to hold them back, is their scouting. Their drafting and their scouting, it's inexcusably bad for a team that's worth this much money. Forbes recently just said that they're the most valuable NHL franchise. They're valued at $4.4 billion US. I cannot believe that a team with that kind of valuation is this bad at scouting and drafting. And until they correct that, I don't care who they hire as general manager, who's the president, who's the CEO, it's not going to matter, because that's how you win in the modern day NHL. You draft well, and they do not. Lou, I need to ask you, there's a lot of chatter out there now that Brad Treliving's gone. Does someone jump off the page to you as a replacement to be the next general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I'm not sure what Keith is going to do, only because I'm not sure if he's going to look for another president of hockey ops like he had in Brendan Shanahan, and then he's going to bring in somebody to look after the hockey operations. I would love to see Keith Pronger. I would love to see Chris Pronger come in here. A lot of fresh ideas. He's been around. He's been part of the winners, and I think he knows what it takes to win. But we have to be patient here, guys. We can't try to throw everything into one basket and expect this team to make the playoffs next year and the year after. We got to be really patient, because when you're not patient, we're going to make stupid deals. And maybe Matthews might not want to be coming back. We don't know that right now. I think whoever comes in is going to have to sit down with him or Judd, his advisor, and see if he wants to come back. Because what kind of free agents are you going to want to come in here? Guys that are just willing to take a paycheck and not win? That's not what we want. We want to win here. So it's going to be a tough. I think it's going to be a tough 6 weeks right now till the end of the year to find out who we bring in as GM, and obviously the Matthews situation, and again, it comes down to, does Nylander waive his no trade? Does Austin Matthews waive his no trade?
And Morgan Riley.
Morgan Riley is the third one, right?
Yeah.
He'd be the first one I go talk to.
Yeah. It's so depressing. I've been patient for 59 years.
Did you see the last one?
I did. Well, I was alive, but I
I remember it faintly.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, but it is it has been a long time, and whoever thought that so many expansion teams would actually step forward instead of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you know what? It's not even winning a Stanley Cup, okay? It's getting to the finals. You know, we were so close in 92, 93 with Dougie and the boys. Obviously, you know, we're going to go back to the Wayne Gretzky high stick.
Yeah, we should.
We were so close in, I think, 2002 or 2003 against New Jersey until some individual decided to take a 5-minute major to Niedermayer's head, which turned the whole series around. We were so close against Boston until Kadri decided to run one guy through the boards with a 3-1 lead in the third period. Okay, it's not like we're far off, but it's every step forward. It seems like our window keeps closing instead of opening a little bit further, because you give every other team another chance to succeed. And you know, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. So for this team this year, it probably would have been the best year. Just get in the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens. Not have high expectations like they've had the last 7 or 8 years with the core four of getting to the finals.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation, man, and there's a lot of questions to be answered. There's not a clear way forward right now, especially after that press conference. Lou, I'm curious real quick. You know, you were with my favorite franchise for a long time. Who is your favorite teammate to play with in Washington?
Well, you know what? It had to be Mike Gartner and Scotty Stevens. They're two different individuals. Scotty was so competitive practice that if he ever came to practice in a bad mood, I would keep my head up coming across center because he didn't care who you were. You were getting your head knocked off. And Mike Gartner was the epitome of true professional. It was great playing with him. I played with him as a 16-year-old. I played with him 2 years in Niagara Falls, and I spent a majority of the time when I was with the Washington Capitals with him. And I can't speak more highly of a true professional individual and true professional athlete.
Are you still playing?
Greats.
Are you still playing with the alumni?
Not anymore. They ruled out anybody over the age of 65. We got to bring in some younger kids like Antropov and
wow.
Hey guys, did you hear the latest that Grabovski got nailed for physical assault? I didn't see him hit one player when he played. So where did he get all his strength from?
Yeah, I guess Mikhail Grabovski in some trouble. He got into an altercation at a minor hockey game that his son was playing in, and it's not a great look. So
no, it's not. You know what? I can understand if it was somebody else, but
is he still in town? Is he in Toronto?
I would imagine he is.
He's in the GTA because his son is playing like high level.
Yeah, his son is playing the GTHL along with Thomas Caberlet and Antropov.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So we got some sick parents up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens, man.
No doubt.
Lou, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I wish you better luck going forward with the Azzurri and, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs, man.
Well, we got 4 years for the Azzurri.
You got
Should I wait 4 years for the Leafs now?
You might have to.
You might have to, buddy. You might have to. You might have to. Just give me one. I just want one.
He just needs one, okay?
You know what? I just want them to succeed in the playoffs. Yeah. And then let's see what happens. You know, it for us, you know what? I'm not even putting the Stanley Cup there because it's probably the hardest trophy to win. Just get there and compete. That's all I want to see. And I think if they start realizing that, you're going to see a lot of good things happen with this organization.
Yeah.
I certainly hope so for your sake and for Clarkey's, man. I don't think that's a big ask.
Remind me of one thing. Did you used to play with us on the fan charity games or no? I can't remember.
I don't think I have.
No, okay. Because I know like Tommy Fergus came out and played, and I couldn't remember if you played or not. But
well, you got to remember, I've been hit too many times in the head too.
You have.
So I've lost a lot of memory.
As a goalie, so have I. All right, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Chatting. It's a pleasure.
Nice chatting.
Thank you, take care. Really appreciate it. Yeah. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Longtime NHLer, Calder Cup champion with the Hershey Bears, the greatest AHL franchise of all time, by the way, in their Hall of Fame. Washington Capitals alumni. Spent some time with Buffalo as well.
Just an energy guy, like just a guy fans loved.
He was an energy guy. And that's the thing, though, right?
Yes.
And where I understand what he's saying about, you know, and I don't play, so I can appreciate when certain guys say, like, yeah, there's pressure in Toronto and whatever. People should want to come and play there because the fans, like, people overblow, you know, the media. And are there some guys in the media that write outrageous stuff? Yeah, there absolutely is. But as a fan base and as a city, it's really very simple. Like, they just want that fan base, like people, and this is really the only thing that the Maple Leafs have to hang their hat on, because people always say to me, you know, well, you know, it's so weird to me that such a proud franchise. They're not a proud franchise. The only thing that's good about the Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't think that this is a hot take. The only thing that's good about the Toronto Maple Leafs franchise since 1967 is the fan base. It's the only thing they have to hang their hat on. They can't hang it on anything else. What, Austin Matthews scored 69 goals one time? You hang your hat on that? That's it for you? The fan base is unbelievable. The torture and the torment that these people put up with, including my co-host here, is unbelievable. It's the only thing they have. They put up with so much dark garbage in the late 70s and 80s into the early 90s. Chuck Fletcher helped turn that around, right? Cliff Fletcher, pardon me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was giving his son props there. It was Cliff. Cliff turned it around.
He did.
Great period through the 90s and into the early 2000s. And then another just 80s-esque dead period from the lockout year into Matthews getting drafted. The notion that these people are like blood-hungry psychos that want to run every player out of town that misses an open net is just not true. It's very simple. All these people want is to see effort out there.
And that's what Louis said. Effort.
Pride in the crest.
Yes.
That's all they want. They want you to finish a check, William Nylander. They want you to stand up for a teammate, John Tavares. They want you to get angry. Don't shrug your shoulders. John Tavares, he's as guilty as anybody.
I get it, but if there's one guy who I feel gives an effort 100% of the time, it's John Tavares.
Sure, unless a teammate gets hit. Then he doesn't want to be
involved. Was he on the ice?
No, he wasn't on the ice for the Matthews thing. He was not on the ice. No.
Willie didn't see it, but he was pointing at the ref.
Willie didn't see it. Look, I'm not trying to pick on. I'm not trying to pick on guys. I'm not trying to pick on guys. People are going to be watching this going, see, this is why they don't want to play in Toronto. No, it's very simple. Do the simple things. They love all the skill and how good you are. Can
you imagine if William Nylander gave 100% effort every game?
It'd be unbelievable. He'd score 120 points a year.
Yeah, easy.
He'd score 120 points a year.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, they just want to see you battle.
I know. No, there's no doubt.
It's very simple.
And, like, I don't know if these players nowadays probably don't watch old videos of Leaf games and everything, but if they were to,
maybe they
and
should.
They see guys like Louis and Darcy and Wendell and guys who gave effort, they were so beloved in this city.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's, it's crazy.
Yes, they love Matt Sundin and they love Brian McCabe and they love Cujo and they love all those guys. Yes, but again, you see people walking around and it's Tucker jerseys and Roberts.
Roberts. There's another
Wendell.
Yeah.
Like it's not a complicated concoction here.
It's not.
And this goes across all professional sports with some of these guys earning money that is just absolutely obscene. If you're going to do that, please at least go out there and entertain me. And part of that needs to be effort on every shift. I understand and I appreciate. I've never experienced it, obviously. I'm just some fat ass on his couch, okay? I don't know what it's like to go through the grind of a professional sports season. And I appreciate that. Okay. But I don't think it's a big ask based on what we talked about last week, where I got so fired up about all the gouging that happens to fans, which we're going to touch on in a minute here. I don't think it's a big ask to just ask these guys to have effort, especially in the playoffs. Can I have some heat in your game in the playoffs where you finish a check and don't roll off of a puck and let a guy pass through you for free? That's all these Leaf fans want.
Mm-hmm.
And if wanting that and then vocalizing it afterwards that they're upset that it's not there makes this a bad market to play in, then I guess fine, it's a bad market to play in. Let's get some people who are actually brave enough to come in and do it then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to happen. I don't care what this guy does. Keith Pelley here, let's throw him back up there after that disaster that was that press conference. Where
his glasses match the background, though.
He's talking about AI and all this stuff. Like, yeah, that's exactly what Leaf fans want to hear. You talking about AI and innovating the data that you look at. No one gives a crap about that. Use it, whatever. Like, I understand analytics are part of sports. Like, fine. None of the fans in Toronto wanted to hear that yesterday.
No.
This is a disaster. It's the most expensive ticket in the National Hockey League, and your product stinks.
Okay, so let's go through.
Is not there.
Who
AI?
Who can they put in charge at the top as the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs that can start this franchise over again and being patient again to maybe bring the cup here? Who would be on your list?
Man, you know what? I'm starting to just like not even know what's possible here, because I don't think it's going to matter who they hire if Keith Pelley and Rogers and the ownership group don't get out of the person's way and let them run the hockey.
He says he doesn't. He says he doesn't. I don't believe it for 1 second.
I don't believe it either. Like, they cannot have a guy
not in the dressing room. I'm not even in the dressing room. Well, how come on half the videos I see of the post-game stuff in the dressing room, he's in there?
Anyway. They have
Doug Armstrong. Is Doug Armstrong going to be the guy? Now, whenever the Leafs need to hire somebody, obviously, we hear the best names. And I hate this thing about we got to hire a search firm. And why don't you, you can't tell me you've been sitting around doing nothing for the last, 3 months, 4 months, and not looked into you always should know who's next, Ryan. Who's next? I know if we fire you today, I know who's next. I know who's going to sit in your chair. I know. And you probably know who would sit in my chair.
Do you? Yeah.
A good manager should always know who's next. You're telling me you fired Brad Treliving and you have no idea who's next, and you got to hire a search firm? I remember they did that when Brian Burke was hired. Everyone said it should be Brian Burke. It should be Brian Burke. We're going to hire a search firm head up by Gord Kirk. And Gord's going to, guess what? Gord Kirk told him Brian Burke's the guy. Oh, great. Okay, let's hire him. So Doug Armstrong, he seems to be pretty successful, except what has St. Louis done in the last, since they won the cup? Like, what have they done?
Well, I will say this for them. The fact that you said the sentence since they won a cup is pretty. Yeah,
but Berube won the cup with them. So that's fine. That's fine.
So,
you know who I want just for personal reasons? And
right.
He's a terrific guy. He's a friend of our show. We've had him on many times. He's worked for the Maple Leafs. He's been a captain. He's one of the smartest hockey guys I know, Dave Pooley.
Yeah, Dave Pooley. And Pooley already worked for the organization at one point.
And maybe he doesn't want to come back. Maybe he's got a great gig in Ottawa and he doesn't want to come back. But I would be all over that one. And I would think Keith Pelley probably has a history with him being a TSN former TSN
alumnus,
exec.
Yep.
Both of them.
I just want whoever it is, and whether it's Doug Armstrong or it's Chris Pronger or I don't know, it's a former Leaf, like somebody said Doug Gilmore to me the other day. I don't know if Gilly necessarily has the want to do something like that. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter who it is. Unless they get somebody in there that has the wherewithal to come in and go, What are we doing with our scouting staff?
I get it. I get you. I don't want to hear another rant on the scouting staff, with all due respect.
I'm sorry. It's the biggest thing that's holding them back from success.
Well, okay.
It's actually
that's fine, but they're not looking at that right now. And maybe they have to just clean house, get rid of everybody, right? There's still scouts there from when I worked there. Garth Malarchuk's still there. I like Garth. He's a good dude.
Okay, great. I'm not trying to lay this all at Garth's feet here.
No. And he's not the director of scouting. He doesn't come up with the actual.
Well, their director of scouting should be gone.
Well, didn't they have a guy like a few years ago who was really good and they got rid of him after a couple of years? Anyway, I don't know. I don't
know what's going on in there.
A lot of the scouting guys, but they don't
find guys, man.
It just worries me. It scares the crap out of me and as I said before, they're jinxed. They're never going to win. Like I'm like, they're jinxed. Like, look at the stuff Louis was saying about the penalties and the circumstances and everything else. It all started with the high stick. They're jinxed.
Not jinxed. They're not. Just like the Red Sox weren't jinxed and the Cubs weren't jinxed and the Patriots weren't jinxed. No, they weren't.
The Red Sox were absolutely jinxed. They had the curse of the Bambino.
Okay, fine. If you want to, okay. And the Buckner. Yeah, I get it.
Fine. Yeah, exactly. But they finally did it. They turned it around. They finally did it.
Yeah, you can do this thing where you look at the spirit realm and go, oh, there's forces at play here. Fine, that's a fun conversation to have. Mm-hmm. But us that live in reality, look at it and go, where is the long-term success and the long-term sustainability in terms of being able to compete as a sports franchise? And it needs to be from drafting and developing young talent and curating that young talent into long-term sustained roster success.
Maybe that's where the jinx started. When Cliff Fletcher said draft schmaft.
Okay, well, lots of guys have said that, right? Okay. And look, and on that note, like Berkey, remember that famous quote of his when somebody asked him why they aren't like Pittsburgh, and he was like, Pittsburgh, they won a draft lottery and got Sidney Crosby. Yes, they won a draft lottery and got Sidney Crosby, but then do you know what they did around Sid? They drafted other really good players around him and then kept doing that for a lengthy period of time. And around the fringes added a Recchi into the mix to help them win a cup. Okay. Guys like that. They supplemented it with a couple guys here and there. All right. And then they had such a well-established core of winning put together that's when you start cranking draft picks out over a long period of time and going, we're still going for it because we know Sid can win. The mistake that the Leafs made was they never won anything, and they kept on going, well, we got to trade every first-round pick that we have conceivably till 2058 so that we can keep supplementing this core that gives us nothing in games 5, 6, and 7.
But you were also the guy last year at the trade deadline saying they got to do anything they can. They fall in love with their prospects. If you got to trade Nyes, trade them. You got to try to win a cup. Trade them. Now they didn't, but they traded a lot of picks and they traded other guys. So you're talking out of both sides of your mouth here. Either they got to keep their guys and draft the guys and hold on to them, or trade them. You can't say both.
Well, I understand why you're saying that, but the fact of the matter is that they've never established a good draft record of guys that they had in the pipeline. Because the difference is you set up a team and you've got a bunch of good players that you've drafted, okay? And then you pay them an appropriate amount of money and don't let them hold you over a barrel. That's a good start as well.
No doubt. No doubt. I totally agree. It was ridiculous. Mitch Marner,
because Sid and all those guys,
William Nylander,
they were making not near as much money as all these other guys. And they won too. They got it done when they were young. The Leafs scouting staff has never been able to unearth good players that become really solid roster players in deeper rounds. It's one thing to trade away first and second round draft picks like they're candy. That's great. And bring in Brandon Carlo. Where are any of the other guys that they find in like the second, third, fourth, fifth round? Where are these guys? Where's their Alexi Protas to go to our stable? Never mind his brother. That looks like a steal. Where's their Brian Rust? Where's their Nikita Kucherov? And I'm not saying Nikita Kucherov falls off trees. 2nd round pick. Where are these guys? Where are these guys deeper in drafts that they didn't take that could have sustained their roster capability and given them more assets to potentially
and
move?
I get it. And I personally think, and you probably think I'm crazy, the draft is such a crapshoot.
How come they're never good at it? How come they've never been good at it?
Because they're jinxed.
Okay. Do you not just think that they have bad scouts that don't ever seem to find anybody?
I mean, all these guys who you talk about in the 3rd, 4th round guys, 29 other teams passed on them too, if it was, more than 5-6 years ago.
But how come it's always other teams that are finding these guys and never the Leafs?
It's not always other teams, but
it's never the Leafs, though. It's never them.
I don't have my my encyclopedia out in front of me here to tell you, but the Leafs have had guys picked in later rounds who have worked out, who have been successful.
Couple here and there. But before the show, I actually went on Hockey DB and looked at their draft history over the last 15 years.
Of course you did. Yeah.
I don't recognize 98.9% of the names. Mm-hmm. And I'd challenge anybody to go on Hockey DB and look at their draft record and find anybody for me. In 2020, they selected 12 players. I don't know who any of them are. So you can sit here and say, "Oh, well, draft schmaft," and it doesn't matter.
I didn't say it.
All the other. No, I understand that, but and people who are like, "Oh, the draft seems to matter to all the teams that win."
Yep. And as Lou said, it's the hardest trophy to win. It's hard. It's not easy. You got to have a lot of things go right. And last year, and I know you dismissed this, they were this close.
I don't dismiss it, but
you did. You do. Win. You usually do. Oh, you always say that.
They didn't win.
I know they didn't.
And when they got, and you know what they did though? When they got this close,
they lost badly.
It was that moment.
I was at the game, remember?
They lost by this much.
Yes, they did. You're right.
So what's it matter?
It doesn't matter at the end of the day.
No.
But all I'm saying is they have had moments where they've been close. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter one bit. I get it. I just have a feeling now this new president or GM is going to come in here and they're not going to trade Morgan Riley, which I think they should. They're not going to trade Nylander. They're not going to trade Matthews. They're going to try to retool the secondary guys, and they'll flirt with the playoffs maybe. They're like, before this fell off the rails the last 3 weeks, they were flirting with the playoffs this year. We had our buddy from, oh boy, he's not going to be happy. I can't remember his name. Cyclones coach.
Yeah, Jason Brooks.
We had Brooksy on not long, like after Christmas, and we all sat here saying, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs. So I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen. They're just going to retool, and they'll try to make the playoffs. They'll try to squeak into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they definitely need to, like Morgan Riley is the number one guy, and we need to have Ian Doig on next week because it's the Masters week. So we'll have Ian on.
Yeah.
He has said it for a long time, and I now agree. They need to move on. And you know what? Even think about buying him out. Like, you got to just get rid of this guy. Because you don't want to say, well, let's trade him in a first so someone takes him. Like, you're not going to do that.
That's the other thing too. And that's my point here. The asset management over the life of this franchise since the draft became a thing has been disastrously bad. So I don't care about curses and jinxes and Carrie Fraser's hair. I don't care. The asset management is a detriment to this organization's long-term health on the ice.
So how do they fix it?
Get some scouts in there and stop hiring GMs that trade every single first-round pick when you haven't won a cup yet. You draft this core four of guys and then go, yeah, let's keep just trading picks so no one's coming behind them.
Well, what would it have mattered if they trade the picks or not? Because they can't draft well. So why don't you trade the picks?
Yeah, that's a fair point. What's it matter?
What does it matter? They would have just drafted Joe Schmo anyway, and Joe Schmo wouldn't have played.
They probably would have drafted some 5'9" guy that, can't play in the NHL.
You know who, like, it sounded like Keith Pelley was talking about when he talked about data and all that? It sounded like he was talking about Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, well, too late.
Well, that's Brendan Shanahan to blame on that one, I think.
Too late. They need somebody who's going to come in and actually be realistic, because if they want to come in and go, well, we'll just retool around the edges with this aging decor. They don't have a number one defenseman. They never really have. Like, if that's the way you want to go forward and tinker around with that with Austin Matthews,
are you saying me or are you saying the new GM?
The new GM, okay, the Leafs, everybody, the board, Keith, if that's what you want to do, go right ahead and just keep on trading first-round picks into infinity and not actually stockpile young players, which has become more critical in the salary cap world because it's cost-efficient to have good young players that are able to actually come in and play. Who do they have to come in and play?
What else do we got to talk about this week? We're running out of time here. How about the Vegas Golden Knights firing their coach?
Okay, we can talk about that. I just wanted to highlight something real quick here because Keith Pelley, a lot of attention on him. Jonas Siegel wrote an unbelievable piece in The Athletic about some of the business practices that the Leafs have adopted, which includes, I had no idea they were doing this, to have your kid go on the ice as the flag bearer before the game, it's $1,000. And that doesn't include a ticket. You have to buy a ticket separate and then give the Leafs I think it's $964 and some odd cents to have your kid go out and be. That should just be like a minor hockey kid that gets selected to go out there.
Of course it should.
No, they monetize everything. And I understand, as Brian Hayes said on Overdrive today, I understand they're charging people thousands of dollars to, like, you can like have a VIP dinner in the dressing room and stuff. Like, okay, I don't know who wants to eat in the dressing room, but fine, I get it. It's a capitalist economy. They're trying to make money on stuff. Great. That's just goofy. $1,000 to have your kid be the flag bearer. Really? You got to charge people to have a kid go out there? And it just speaks to how disconnected this group of people that run the Toronto Maple Leafs are from such a passionate fan base. Gouge you at every step of the way. Most expensive ticket in the league, and it's for this crap product. Crap. Can't draft, can't do anything right. And this is the end of the story. I just wanted to highlight this, and please go read this on The Athletic. Jonas Siegel does a great job. Winning, of course, would be the best way for the Leafs to make even more money than usual. But in part because of his failed leadership, the Leafs aren't winning either and will soon miss the playoffs entirely for the first time since 2016, which has led to softening ticket sales. And despite Keith Pelley's pledges this week about incredible, nearly unmatched resources, the team appears to be cutting costs while also scrounging for every last dollar elsewhere. It turns out the Leafs under Pelley actually are here to sell jerseys, and everything else. That's the end of Jonas Siegel's fantastic piece in The Athletic. And he delves into a bunch of the goofy stuff they're doing to gouge people to be even near the arena, which is insane. It's just so sad. You can get away with stuff like this when you win, but people aren't going to be happy about this, and put up with crap like this.
Well, I didn't even
you
like
don't win.
I didn't even like what Louis said about him not being able to play on the alumni team. Like, I'd rather see Lou Franceschetti than Peter Holland. Nothing against Peter Holland, but I'd rather see Lou out there.
Well, yeah, I understand having a cutoff for guys of a certain age group, but then have a
why is there cutoff? What, like, if the guy's in shape and can play, Rick Vive still plays. Maybe he's a captain, that's why he can still play. But like,
have a seniors team,
and maybe it's because I'm old. Maybe that's why those are the guys I watched and loved in the 80s. Maybe that's why I want to see those guys. But guess what? Guess who goes to the alumni games, Ryan? Old guys.
Well, you know like what, me. Though? You want to go and see those guys, and when the Leafs have events like that where those guys are there, they charge you up and down to get into it. They had this fan day thing or whatever. It was like $65 to get in.
Huh.
You know what I
$30
mean?
to go to a movie. I'll pay $50 to see an alumni game.
No, but like it was just like a fan day where you went in and then you had to pay extra to get like autographs.
Yeah. Leaf alumni are playing in Port Huron, which is not that far from me.
So go to that then.
In a couple weeks. Why don't you come with me?
Yeah, I'll think about it. I don't really care.
Detroit and Toronto. It's the Red Wings and the Leafs alumni.
Oh, the Red Wings are going to be there. Okay, now
it's the Red Wings and the Leafs alumni. And last time I saw those two teams played, Chris Draper and Gary Nyland at BMO Field nearly.
It was Gary Roberts. It was Roberts.
Who'd I say?
You said Nyland.
Oh, sorry.
I was
Gary
like,
Roberts.
Not Gary Nyland. Gary Nyland.
See, it's a little flashback. Terrible.
No,
and just I don't even want to say about the what did they call it? The mentors trip. And
I don't want to talk about that.
And who Morgan Riley
talking about
picked to go? You know who it was, right?
No, I don't know who.
It was Jake Gardner.
Okay, yeah, no, I did hear something about that. Look, I don't care.
I was like, what? Anyway, come to the alumni game with me. We'll have fun.
I'll think about it. Yeah, we only have a couple minutes left here. Yep. Look, again, for the Leaf fans to get angry at me in the comments, I don't want to be this guy. The Leafs don't affect my life one way or the other. I actually would love for them to do well for my friend here.
Thank you.
I'd love for Clarkey to experience what I got to experience. It's been a long time now since the Caps won the Cup. It's been a while.
You follow the Caps. Let me ask you a quick question. Was there ever a time in the lead up to the Cup where it seemed like it was the lowest of the lows and you had to blow everything up and maybe trade Ovi and start all over?
Never Ovi. I never felt that way.
No. Okay.
I never once was like trade Ovi.
No. Okay. Ever. Get off the Ovi thing. Missed playoffs a couple years before you won the Cup.
14, 15, they missed the playoffs. And I said, they got to make some serious changes. And guess what they did?
Well, they traded a couple of skips like Alexander Semin. I know that much.
They actually let Semin walk. They let him walk.
Yeah.
They made serious changes. But you know what allowed them to do that though, Clarkey? They weren't paying 4 guys all of their cap. They were drafting young players to come in and replace guys. And they were able to sign some players that came in and actually made a difference and competed hard. They traded Troy Brouwer. How about this for asset management? I love Troy Brouwer. Troy Brouwer, a good guy. Scored the winning goal in the Winter Classic that year against Chicago. Troy Brouwer, really good player. They traded him in a pick to get TJ Oshie. Transformed the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Transformed it. Let Mike Green go. Do you know how much I loved Mike Green?
Sure.
Do you know how much that hurt me as a fan to see Mike Green go?
Yeah.
And Brooks
Yeah.
Okay. I had to say goodbye to a bunch of really good players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they were
2 minutes left.
That.
You didn't give me
they
a
were
chance
able to
talk
do that.
about what do you think? I would love to have been a fly on the wall when Mitch Marner found out that John Tortorella was coming in to coach the Vegas.
Well, he had a big open ice hit the other night, so maybe.
Well, he better keep it up, and maybe he can sweat a little bit. Maybe he can actually sweat. That would be nice. Tortorella would probably like that.
Torts, it's
unbelievable. Torts is back. It is unbelievable. But what a franchise where they knew who was next. They knew who was next. They didn't have to hire a search firm to find out who was going to take over with 12 games left in the season for Bruce Cassidy. They didn't have to do that. They just hired a guy. Just hire a guy. Have a guy know.
What's crazy too? They traded for Rasmus Anderson. I bet you in the summer they flip him because he hasn't fit.
And they may. Absolutely.
They signed him to a deal, and they're going to go, we're going to flip this guy.
Yeah.
Ruthless.
Hey, listen.
Operation.
We're nearly out of time. What a show.
Almost done.
What a show. We carried the energy.
Thank you.
That's what happens when you have a leadoff hitter like Lou Franceschetti, who brought the energy for the full time he was on, and it carried on. The Leafs could learn something from that.
They could learn something from the energy here on Instigating. Right? And we appreciate everybody watching the show on YouTube, listening on all your favorite podcast apps, following us on social media at Instigating Pod. Thanks again to Lou Franceschetti. And remember, you can catch us on Rogers TV as well. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.